Hey everybody, Papa Wiggs here with Wiggs doing another head-to-head, and this one is a good one. Travis Kelce against Mark Andrews. Wow, what can you say? Probably in in their eras, right now, probably the two best tight ends. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, Wiggs are statistically at least right now. I'm not saying they're you know both going to be the best this year, but last year, um, you know, I said this to Wiggs before. I wasn't really impressed, even though he had 984 yards. I didn't think Kelce had a very good regular season. Yeah, he did better in the postseason and stuff. But listen, I think this guy is what Kelsey's what 35, I
Yeah,
think.
he's getting there.
So
34,
he's
yeah.
34, turning 35. I thought he lost a step last year. He didn't look like the same guy that had 1,300 yards in 2022. And last year, I think he only missed technically maybe one game because the last game he probably sat out um, and stuff. But uh, yeah,
Yeah.
so he missed one game last year. Man, that's kind of a big dip if you ask me. Granted, the year before he played 17 games, he dropped down from 1338 to 984. That's kind of I don't know. That's a big dip in my eyes. And during the regular season, he only had 5 receiving touchdowns last year, which the year before he had 12. I don't know. I personally think that we're starting to see the decline of Travis Kelce. I'm not saying he's still not going to be a good tight end. I just think that statistically, I think you're going to continue to see his stats go. I personally think the only reason he came back this year is because they won the Super Bowl and he wants to try to win a third one in a row. Um, and if they don't win a Super Bowl this year, I fully expect that he's going to retire. That's just my opinion. I think he's got his focus on a lot of other things outside of football, and I just don't think he's going to have a Travis Kelce type of year that people are expecting and stuff. And I truly think he's kind of being overranked and overdrafted or drafted too early right now. On the flip side of that, I think Mark Andrews. Now, granted, Andrews didn't have, uh, you know, he's been, fighting injuries the last couple years, so his last 2 years haven't been great. But you can make an argument that he's, you know, uh, one of the best tight ends to play. I think he's definitely Lamar's favorite target. I'm not saying Kelsey's not Mahomes' favorite target, but I think when you look at what they're doing at the receiving position at KC, I think you're going to slowly see Mahomes start hitting Rice. Rice is going to be in this year too, from my understanding. He's not
I
going to
can't
lose
believe
any
that.
time. And then they got a couple young receivers.
Xander Worthy.
They got Worthy and a few other guys. I mean, they got receivers in Baltimore as well. But I think now that Andrews is back fully healthy, he missed 7 games last year. That's why his totals reflect what they do. What's surprising to me though out of that is he still had more receiving touchdowns last year than Kelsey. So I think Andrews is always a big target in the red zone for Lamar, especially when they get around that 10-yard line. I think Lamar's always looking for Andrews first. So I think Andrews stays healthy this year. I definitely think he is. I think I had him. I think Wiggs, didn't we both have him
I have
number
him at
one?
one, yeah.
I really think he's going to have a bounce back year this year. I really do. If he's healthy, I think, and I stand by it. I think that He's going to be the top tight end this year. Now, granted, I know that there's other guys that could overtake him, but if he stays healthy, it wouldn't surprise me if he gets 12, 11, 1,200 yards. I don't know that he will, but he could. I definitely think he's going to have more touchdowns. I think he's going to have around 10 to 12 touchdowns this year if he's completely healthy. I mean, he had six, by the time he got injured last year. So I think he could have 10 to 12 touchdowns. Kelce, on the other hand, I'm not as high on him. I know a lot of people are not going to like my take, but I really think Kelsey's going to struggle to get around 800 yards, 800, maybe 850, if that. And I think he's going to be right around the same touchdown total as he was last year. I just don't really see Kelsey being an active part of the red zone. They've got another young tight end on that team. What's his name? Yeah, Gray. They got Gray there. They got Pacheco now. That's a reliable red zone person that they're going to go to from on the running game. They got Rice and Worthy. I just think that it's not. It's an evolving Chiefs offense with a lot more weapons than they've had. More weapons than they've had in the past. So I really think that you're going to continue to see Kelsey's stats go down. I think he's going to struggle to get in 800 yards. I'll be surprised if he has five touchdowns, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. And so that's my take on that. So Wiggs, what do you think?
I think of the two, me personally, I think Mark Andrews is the better option. The only issue I have with Andrews is the fact that he seems to never stay healthy. He's only fully completed one season back in 2021 since joining. Yes, there might be like one or two games in there where it might have been just the last game of the year and they didn't really need a win since they're in playoffs. But for me, Andrews just really needs to stay healthy because um, he's easily a top three tight end in the NFL right now. Looking back on it, I actually think I flipped Laporta with Andrews because I think Laporta is going to have another great year this year. But um, part of that was because I'm expecting Andrews to at least miss one game as well because he's just never stayed healthy. It doesn't matter what year it is outside of that one.
Yeah,
Um,
but it's not like he's missed a lot of games. I mean,
I mean,
2018, I don't know if they were at 17 games that year. I think they were at 16
yeah,
still.
they could have been at 16, but still,
2019, I'm not sure they were at 17 games. I mean, they've only been at 17 games, I think, since 2021, or maybe I don't remember, but and so I'll give you 2020. He did miss three games. One of those might have been because they were in the playoffs
yeah,
again.
and
So
that's like 2022. But at the end of the
I
day,
agree. I don't think he gets injuries though that, with the exception of
yeah.
last year where they're lingering.
But at the end of the day, as well, like even those games, if they make playoffs and he misses, it still is a fantasy hit towards the end of the year. Depending
Well,
on
it's
how your
not week
how your
17 isn't a
well, it
isn't a
depends on how your league's set up. Some
right.
leagues
Well, most
do it that late,
yeah.
but regardless, anyways, let me finish here. He's definitely going to be the better of the two. I think Travis Kelce's still going to be around 900 yards. I think he'll be at like 6 or 7 touchdowns. But like you said, they've brought in a lot of weapons from Hollywood Brown, who I know won't be playing right away this year due to injury. But once he comes back, he'll be a nice weapon. You got Xavier Worthy, you got Rashee Rice, you brought in Juju Smith Schuster. You got your tight end there, Noah Gray, and they do like to use him every now and then. And then Isaiah Pacheco, who's going to be more involved in that passing game, is just targets taken away from Kelce. But at the end of the day, Mahomes will end up finding Kelce still quite a bit. It's probably going to be another 100 targets, 100 plus probably still for Kelce. He always is like that safe option for Mahomes, and Kelce seems to find the open field more times than not. So I kind of expect him to be around 900. I don't think he's going to break 1,000. Originally, I did, but them bringing in the receivers they have, it's kind of hard for me to see Kelce going over 1,000 because there's just a lot more weapons than there have been in the last few years there in the KC
Well, I
offense.
think the other thing too is that I don't, you know, um, I don't think Kelsey, like last year, he, I guess his um, last year, I guess his yards, yeah, they went down. I mean, I don't think he's as hard to tackle as he used to be. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
So and stuff, and yeah, you're right. He did have 121 targets on 93 receptions, and which wasn't really down that much. from the year before.
And if he didn't miss the first game of the year too, we're talking probably another 8 or 9 targets, another 5 or 6 receptions. He would have broke 1,000 yards. So
But yeah, even so, I don't. I think he's definitely lost a step.
I think like if he would have produced more in the touchdowns like you touched on earlier, he would have like shown us that he'd be like the top guy still. But he fell off from the last 3 years prior. He was averaging over 10 and then falls to 5. That's kind of a big hit. I don't know if that's necessarily all on him. I think Patrick Mahomes had a little bit of a, I don't want to say bad year, but he didn't have a year where he was throwing for a lot of touchdowns like he had in the past, if I'm not mistaken here. Yeah, he only threw 27 touchdowns compared to those 3 years prior. So
Well, and that's a lot of that. I think has to do with Pacheco. Wouldn't you agree? Because in years past, they never really had that guy
no, they've
in the
had a few
rushing.
like decent ones though. But,
No, they
but I do
haven't had a
agree with you.
Pacheco like guy, right? And they also had McKinnon, right? Which was a huge red zone target for him and stuff. So
I think what their guy at running back before was Kareem Hunt, but I don't know if he ever played with Patrick Mahomes.
yeah, no. But what I'm saying is that they had McKinnon in there as well and stuff, and
Well, yeah,
I think their rushing game was a little bit, and they were using different change of pace type plays
yeah,
where they handed it off instead of throwing with the receivers. So I don't know. You know how Andy Reid is. Andy
yeah.
Reid's really creative down there, and he's not
And he's really
necessarily going to throw the ball.
yeah, and he's really unpredictable with it too. So like, there's a lot of intangibles at times there with Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes because at the end of the day, Andy Reid wants to win and he's gonna you know structure his offense around that. And it's always gonna be different week to week. But I think both these guys are easily starters still on teams, regardless of Kelsey being old and probably in his last year. But um, they're both top guys.
Go. But the one thing I will say is I agree with Wiggs that Andrews has got to stay on the field. Um, but I taper your expectations of Kelce. I just don't think that Kelsey's going to be the guy this year. I think that there's a lot of other tight ends that are really good this year. And I'm not saying that, even though I got Andrews as number one, there's a lot of other tight ends like Wiggs pointed out, Laporta, McBride. You got Kincaid. Ingram. You can go
Ferguson, there you go.
Ferguson, Komet. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are in their prime right now, and so I would tailor your expectations for Kelce and understand that Kelce isn't the number one option anymore for tight ends. That's just my opinion. I think you need to make sure you do a deep dive into um, to all these tight ends and realize that Kelce, even though he might get targets and stuff, and I get it, it's PPR. These other guys are going to be getting the same kind of thing, same kind of targets. On some of these guys are going to be more productive in the red zone and get touchdowns.
Yeah, and like you said, I think Andrews has that slight edge because Lamar and Andrews always have had that connection. And you look at the Baltimore offense, I mean, outside of Zay Flowers, it's kind of a mediocre receiving core.
Yeah,
Nothing against Bateman or Aguilar, but like,
I mean,
they're nothing special right now.
and even with Derrick Henry, I still think that Andrews is going to have a productive
Yeah.
year in the touchdown range. So anyways, anything else you want to add on this one,
No.
Riggs? All right. Well, hey, remember, check us out on YouTube at Fantasy Fools PPR. We're also out on Snap, X, TikTok, Instagram. Subscribe, like, share. We hope that you're finding this content really beneficial. We just want to give you guys another option, and we appreciate any feedback or any questions. And if you share and do all that stuff for us, we'd appreciate that as well. With that, we'll see you next time.